Thank you for listening to Heart Chat Stories. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, so don't forget to leave a comment and share these stories with someone who might need them. Each story is meant to help you pause, reflect, and think about your own relationships, how you love, how you heal, and how you grow. If you'd like more insight into the stories or want to add one to your next book club, visit graceguidance.com. You can find the full collection there, along with reflection prompts to keep the conversations going. And remember, every story in Heart Chat Stories is a chance to rediscover yourself, one honest chat at a time.
The driver tilted his head toward the entrance. "She's coming." Julien looked up, and there she was. Erin stepped out into the evening like she had been carved for it, winter blue dress hugging her shape with elegance, hair smooth, lips soft glossed, eyes sharp even when she wasn't trying to be. She moved quickly at first, like she might change her mind mid-step. For one breath, she looked at him. Not as the architect, not as the man with a village plan. Just Julien. Her expression was composed, almost too composed, but he caught it, the tiny tremble of uncertainty she tried to hide, the courage in her choosing to walk forward anyway. Julien exhaled slowly, something in him loosening. When she reached him, she lifted her chin. "I came out at the last second on purpose," she said, like she needed to reclaim control. Julien's smile was soft. "I figured." She held his gaze, daring him to make it bigger than it was. He didn't. Instead, he offered his arm, not forcing it, just offering. "You look beautiful," he said, "and you still look like you could fire someone with your eyes." A flicker of a smile tried to appear and failed. "Don't get used to this," she warned, even as she stepped closer. Julien's voice lowered. "I won't. I'll just appreciate it." And as the driver opened the door and Erin slid into the car, Julien followed, quietly, carefully, knowing this wasn't the end of her independence. It was the beginning of her letting someone witness her, and that was more than he'd hoped for. The car rolled smoothly through the city streets, lights blurring past the windows like distant stars. Erin shifted in her seat for the third time, nerves humming just beneath her skin. Julien noticed. Without saying a word, he placed his hand gently over hers. Every instinct told her to pull away, to retreat back into the safety of distance, but she didn't. She kept her gaze fixed on the window, jaw tight, heart racing. "What is this?" she asked quietly. Julien turned his head slightly, his hand still resting on hers. "What? Outside?" "No," she said, swallowing. "Your hand, touching mine." He didn't move it. "Does it bother you?" "I don't know how to answer that," she admitted. Julien shifted closer, his presence warm, steady. When she finally looked at him, his eyes were already on her. Deep, intentional, seeing far more than she was ready to say out loud. For a moment she thought about moving. She didn't. There was something about the way he looked at her, not demanding, not rushing, that held her still. Julien leaned in slowly, giving her time. When his lips met hers, the kiss was soft at first, unhurried, exploratory, not taking, inviting. Erin's breath trembled as she responded, her hand tightening slightly beneath his. The kiss deepened just enough to make her aware of how long she'd been holding herself back, how much she denied herself tenderness disguised as strength. Julien lingered, then pulled back just enough to look at her. She broke the kiss, breath uneven. "Why?" she asked. "Because I've fallen for you," he said quietly. "In 3 short months. Since the moment you almost took my head off over that coffee." Her lips curved despite herself. "I admire your strength," he continued, "your drive, and the way you fight what you want, even when it's written all over you." She searched his face. "And what do you think I want?" Julien smiled, soft and hopeful. I was hoping it was me. Her answer wasn't words. She nodded, once, then again. Julien leaned in, kissing her with more certainty this time. Still gentle, but sure. Erin met him fully now, the fear giving way to something warmer, steadier. She pulled back again, resting close. How? She asked quietly. Would you want to invest time in someone who's damaged? Julien didn't hesitate. Because you know you're damaged, he said, and you didn't hide it. You let me share space with you. You showed me you want a relationship that doesn't steal your voice, doesn't shrink your ideas, one that makes you feel safe, not small. Erin stared at him, stunned by the clarity of his words. Still close, she whispered, Are you done? Julien smiled, eyes dark with promise. I could keep going. Then he glanced forward as the car slowed. But I think, he added, amused, we're holding up the entire arrival line. The car came to a stop. Outside, the Clary Christmas event glowed. Lights, laughter, possibility. Julien squeezed her hand once more before letting go. And for the first time, Erin didn't feel like she was walking into the night alone. The Clary Christmas event surpassed every expectation. From the moment the doors opened, praise poured in like snowfall. Guests moved through the village slowly, reverently, as if afraid to miss something. Children laughed and tugged at their parents' coats, wide-eyed at the glowing storefronts and twinkling windows. City officials lingered longer than planned. Donors asked questions, not about cost, but about who had created the experience. This doesn't feel like decor, one executive said to Erin. It feels like a destination. Another leaned in, lowering her voice. We're opening 3 luxury properties next year. I'd like you to lead the visual concepts for all of them. By the end of the night, Erin's phone was filled with follow-ups from exclusive hotel chains, private venues, and corporate planners who wanted her, not just her company. Missy Collier found her near the village square, eyes bright. You did this, she said simply. You're officially on everyone's short list. Erin smiled, pride settling deep and steady in her chest. When the last guest left and vendors began quiet breakdowns, Julien approached her, hands in his coat pockets, expression warm. You were extraordinary, he said. They saw what I saw from the beginning. Thank you, Erin replied, still glowing. Do you want to come back to my place? He asked gently. She shook her head. No, I want to walk for a bit. He nodded. Want company? No, she said again, softer this time. I need to process everything. Tonight. Us. Julien didn't argue. I'll call you when you get home, he said instead. He kissed her cheek, slow, intentional, and stepped back, watching as she walked into the city plaza, lit with Christmas lights and music. Erin walked, past couples holding hands, families laughing, friends gathered around warm drinks and shared memories. 3 months ago, she would have walked faster, harder, away from it all. Tonight, she slowed. She thought about the last 28 years, figuring everything out alone. About her mother, who never loved again after her father. About the relationships Erin herself had sabotaged because healing felt like betrayal. And then she thought about Julien, the man who spilled coffee on her dress and replaced it. The man who made space for her growth instead of fearing it. The man who saw her scars and didn't flinch. She called a ride. When she found herself standing at Julien's door just after midnight, her mother's voice echoed in her head. A lady should never be at a man's house after 9. Erin smiled to herself. It was midnight, and she was certain. The door opened, and Julien's expression shifted from surprise to something like awe. He started to speak. Get me out of this cold before I change my mind, Erin said. Julien didn't hesitate. He pulled her inside, shutting the door behind them, laughter and warmth replacing the chill. His kiss lifted her clear off her feet, joyful, certain, full of promise, as he carried her down the hallway. The rest of the night belonged only to them. Erin didn't go home until 2 days later, after Christmas had passed softly and sweetly. On New Year's Eve, Erin stood beside her mother, hand laced with Julien's. "This is Julien," she said calmly. "My fiancé." Her mother studied them, really studied them, then smiled in a way Erin hadn't seen in years. "Well," she said, "it's about time." Erin squeezed Julien's hand. For the first time, she wasn't choosing between love and ambition. She had built both. 3 years later, Erin woke to laughter before she opened her eyes. "Shh," Julien whispered, far too loudly, to the small boy beside him. "We're surprising Mommy." Erin smiled into her pillow. A moment later, the mattress dipped and a tiny hand patted her cheek. "Morning, Mommy," Julien Jr. said proudly, climbing up beside her while his father balanced a tray behind him. Breakfast, in bed, from the two loves of her life. Julien set the tray down carefully, then leaned over to kiss her forehead. "Good morning," he said softly. Erin rolled onto her side, immediately feeling Julien's hand settle over her 7 months pregnant belly. Familiar, grounding, reverent, she exhaled, content. From downstairs, the doorbell rang, followed by her mother's voice, bright, welcoming. Moments later, her sister's laughter filled the house, along with the sound of a little feet running in. Julien Jr. kissed Erin's cheek, then hopped off the bed. "Cousins!" he shouted, already racing down the hall. Erin laughed quietly as Julien climbed in beside her, pressing his cheek to her shoulder. Life had moved fast, just like she always had. They'd married 6 months after meeting. No hesitation, no fear disguised as logic. Parenthood followed soon after, and somehow, instead of losing herself, Erin had finally found her. Her career flourished in ways she once thought required sacrifice. After the Clary Christmas event, she hired additional designers and opened an office focused on luxury hotel updates. The work was steady, creative, and less draining than constant event production. She still took on select high-profile events, usually when Missy called, but now it was by choice, not pressure. Most days, Erin spent her time with Julien Jr., bringing him to the office when he wasn't with his father. Her staff adored him. He toddled through mood boards and fabric samples like he belonged there because he did. Julien's village design caught international attention. He patented the concept, created modular village plans, and sold them worldwide. His days were filled with designing new layouts, often with Julien Jr., testing them first, small hands rearranging pieces while his father laughed. Erin caught her reflection in the mirror across the room. She looked peaceful. She'd resisted this life for so long, fearing it would cost her everything she worked for. But when the right person came along, she hadn't shrunk herself to fit. She stepped into it fully, without regret. She loved being home. She loved being a mother. She loved building a family with Julien. He had done exactly what he promised. He encouraged her to climb as high as she wanted, without competition, without control. And somewhere along the way, Erin had her breakthrough. Family wasn't a distraction. It was what she wanted. She no longer lived driven by fear of failure or the need to prove she wasn't her mother. In releasing that struggle, she found balance and opportunities she never could have imagined.
Thank you for listening to Heart Chat Stories. Every story is written with love, to heal, to inspire, and to remind you that new beginnings are always possible. If this touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so others can find healing through story. Until next time, keep your heart open and your spirit lifted.